So one of the things Jon Stewart has always cared deeply about is veterans' health care. He has crusaded to get them health care. The first responders during 9/11, they were breathing in these toxic fumes and this dust when the towers collapsed, and it destroyed a lot of people, man. Years later, boom, they got hit with severe respiratory illnesses and emphysema and cancer, and the U.S. government was dragging its feet in terms of getting these people health care. A lot of people didn't have adequate health care. And so Jon Stewart went and fought for them to have their health care bills paid. And it was like pulling teeth. And, you know, that was something that Jon Stewart was already a brilliant guy, but it was something that really opened his eyes even more to, oh, shit, what's going on? This is crazy. So now he's fighting for veterans health care again because the U.S. government is dragging its feet again. And he gave a speech here in D.C. and he breathed fire. Take a look.
So this is sort of simple. I mean, you see the entire veterans community standing together, united as one, to get this done. And it's going to come down to what it always comes down to here. We need 10 Republicans. That's it. After 20 years of fighting, this is what it comes down to. 10 Republicans. We get that, and the veterans finally get the health care and the benefits that they fought so hard for, that they earned, that they're sick and dying for. We wanted Kate Hendricks to be here today. She came and testified just 3-4 weeks ago, but she can't be here today because she's in hospice. That's what this is about. We can't wait any longer. This delay is unconscionable, and you're going to have a hearing today, and you're going to hear a lot of nonsense about, is this responsible? They're all going to say the same thing. We want to do it. We want to support the veterans, but we want to do it the right way. We want to be responsible. You know what would have been nice? If they had been responsible 20 years ago and hadn't spent trillions of dollars on overseas adventures, if they had been responsible and hadn't spent billions of dollars for defense contractors to poison our own troops, if they had been responsible and understood that 20 years of war was going to create an overflow and an influx of sick veterans paying the consequences of those wars, they had their chance to be responsible, and they blew it.
This is one of those issues that it's so important that he's doing this, and it's so great that he's doing this for this simple reason. Among the actual public, there is no partisan divide on this question. You ask average Joes and Janes all around this country, regardless of their political persuasion, they lean left, they lean right, they're independent, they're centrist, whatever. Everybody's going to say, should we give first responders and veterans health care? Are you kidding me? Of course we should. And in fact, majority of people in the country go further than that, and 60, 70% say we should have universal health care. So there's not much of a divide in the country, and I would reckon that it's even higher than 60 or 70% on this specific question. If you gave people the information, you'd probably be 80, 90% of people are like, what are we talking about? What are we debating? You know, people sacrifice their bodies for the rest of us, and we're going to let them go bankrupt from medical bills or have it so they just don't even get treatment? Like, what are we talking about here? So since there's no partisan divide in the country, what Jon Stewart is doing is letting everybody know in D.C., well, actually, here there is a partisan divide. And here the Democrats are on the side of getting these people health care, and the Republicans are blocking it. So it's shining a light on an issue that is uniting among the public, but divisive among the cretinous demons in Washington, D.C. And that's phenomenally important. And hopefully people start putting pressure on these politicians, because that is what happened the last few times he went through this. Because they have sunset provisions on the programs, and so he had to go and fight for it, and he got it, but then he had to go back and fight for it again. And it's the pressure that is put on as a result of his appearances and blowing it up to the world that ends up working. Jon Stewart, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Jon Stewart at the time, he went on Fox News as well to argue for health care for the first responders and the veterans. He went on Fox News to do it, and he had support from other Fox News hosts. So even among our decrepit, disgusting corporate media, it was an issue that was so overwhelming that they were like, all right, well, we're with you on this. And so the only divide was in Washington. There was enough pressure where he succeeded on that front. And now he's got to fight for it again, obviously. So, I mean, it's astounding, and I'm sure he feels this way too, that this even needs to be done. And that is such a great example of just how broken and corrupt the government is. Because, and you guys know this better than anybody else if you watch this show for any length of time, all they do in D.C. is represent their corporate donors. That's who they view as their boss, first and foremost. So if that's your boss, first and foremost, you know, every bill you're passing, everything you're talking about is going to be like, let's give a subsidy to this corporation or a tax cut to this billionaire. You know, let's deregulate industry more and cut the red tape and make sure that these companies can pollute in a way that protects their bottom line more. Like this is the bulk of the debate that goes on there. With war, it's like, let's give more no-bid contracts to so-called defense contractors so they get really fucking wealthy off death and despair. So that's what they're focusing on all the time. It's like, there's no need to wonder why Congress always has an approval rating that's like 18%. There's no need to wonder. Because it's the entire system is broken. And in a weird way, it's not even about the individuals there. It's more about the system. If you reform the system, if you get the corporate money and the big money out of the system, then you're much more likely to have an open, honest discourse and dialogue there where people are arguing for their own political philosophy and ideology and different policies. And it's not just about who's the biggest sellout who represents industry better and ignores the will of the people more. So, anyway, there you have it. Massive credit to Jon Stewart. Shame on any politician, and it's overwhelmingly Republicans who are not in favor of getting first responders and veterans their adequate health care. I mean, what more can you say about it, man? What more can you say about it? And does Jon Stewart, we covered the story recently, does Jon Stewart have political aspirations? Because it sort of looks like Jon Stewart might have political aspirations, and he almost admitted that in a recent interview. He's like, well, how can you not think about running for office when you see these morons who are in there now? That's basically what he said. I don't know. I'm agnostic on the question, but Crystal had an interesting take on it, which is, well, look, he retired from doing his show, but now he came back to do a show. Well, why would he do that? Well, her theory is that could be a springboard to get back in the public consciousness to then use that to launch some sort of run for office. It's possible. I don't know, but I mean, it goes without saying, him in any position of power would be much better than what we have now. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.